Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Simiana Swings In. I know it's been a while. The reason for that has been that I was going through some stuff at the house I was living at, and then because of that I was moving, and so now I'm actually back here. This is my mum's house, and I'm staying here. I'm getting a flat built out in the backyard. It's traditionally what you'd call a granny flat. Um, my friend Autumn has nicknamed it the Simiana flat, which I think is more appropriate for it being me. So, yeah, so I'll be moving out there eventually, but until then, I'm back here in my old bedroom from when I was a kid. So, so while I was away, I did film another episode. There was an episode I went to Sydney for my birthday, and which happened to also be the first anniversary of my starting hormones. So there's going to be an episode about that at some point in the future. But basically, because I'm moving, all of my editing equipment, the main computer that I use for editing, is in storage at the moment. So I've only got very basic editing software for. I've only got very basic software at the moment to edit with. So not a lot I can do about that at the moment, I'm afraid. But yeah. So yeah, that'll be coming at some point in the future. There's also going to be a video about my trip to England and America. I might throw in a few photos here. That was a great experience, as was the trip to Sydney. So in this video, I decided that something I'd like to talk about a little bit is the idea of male privilege and how that one loses that when they transition from male to female, and basically just my experience of it. Obviously, I can't speak for everybody, but from my experience, I'd have to say that not a lot has really changed when it comes to that. I know a lot of people talk about how that when they transition, there'll be things like that people would just assume they didn't know how to use power tools anymore and things like that, but I don't know how to use power tools anyway, and so anyone who knew me knew that. And I generally think I don't really look. When I was a guy, I don't think I really looked like the sort of person who knew how to use power tools or anything like that, or anything particularly male, like about cars. And even then, it's very sort of sexist to sort of think that only men know about cars, and only men know how to use power tools, and only men know how to do DIY and things like that. I think that a lot of that is bullshit, but it's sort of how that people sort of perceive the different genders, and it's quite interesting to look into it. But as far as that goes, I can't say I've noticed any change. One thing that has changed is that when I was a guy, no one ever came up to me and said, "You're beautiful," and I would like to. Basically, nobody ever tried to come on to me when I was a guy. And if you've seen photos of me when I was a guy, you probably know why. But um, but yeah, that never happened, but it has happened quite a bit since. Not to the point where that. I mean, it's sort of okay, or maybe just sort of see someone checking you out or something like that. But there have been a few creepy instances. One, and this may have been gone over in another video. I apologise if I'm going over something that's already happened. But an Indian guy came up to me at the train station near here, and he came up to me and said, and I'm going to do an accent, and I apologise to anyone who was offended by this, but I can't do an Indian accent anyway, so it's going to sound terrible. So he came up to me and said, "Can I say something that I think you will find offensive?" And I said, "Okay." And he said, "You're very beautiful." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." And then he was like, "And I would like to fuck you." And I was like, "Oh, well, that's nice, but I'm not really into that kind of thing." And he said, "Well, if you were, I would fuck you." So that was certainly a new experience for me. He wasn't the first person to try and come on to me, and there has been more since. But usually they're not that direct. I was also, and I've witnessed this with someone else. This was with my friend Sasha. We were at Target, and she's also trans. And basically, we were in Target, and this guy came up to us, and well, he came up to her and said, "Can I talk to you in private?" And she was like, why? And I want to talk to you. And she said, why? And he says, I want to have sex with you. And it's like, so men seem to be very direct, or at least some men. They were both of a sort of an Indian type background. So they could have been Sri Lankan, they could have been Pakistani, anything from that part of the world. So that's quite an interesting thing. I don't know if that's a cultural thing. I must say that certainly a lot of people that I've met from that part of the world have been lovely. I think it's probably just there is a couple of people that just happen to be from that part of the world that are like that. Maybe there's something cultural. I've got no idea. But that was interesting that they were both of a sort of an Indian background. Well, that part of the world background. I can't say where they're from because I don't know. So other than that, as far as differences in how people perceive me, perhaps you do get the things where that they're kind of stereotypical, but people will hold a door for you, or they'll let you get onto the bus first, or that kind of thing, which is all really nice because it's sort of, I guess, is what they called chivalry back in the day, that people would actually let the women on first. It's not really a life-changing thing, but it's nice that people actually are willing to do that. And I think it says that people are seeing me now as female. Obviously, my voice is still a bit of a giveaway, and the fact that I'm 6'3" is a bit of a giveaway. Not that there aren't 6'3" cisgender women out there, but they're a minority. And I mean, I'm tall by male standards too, so. So yeah, the only other thing that I may notice is that people might treat you differently in shops. I mean, I find that people are more. I mean, maybe this is more because I'm trans rather than being female. People tend to be more suspicious of me than when I was a guy. And when I was a guy, I mean, it was also in airports when I was doing all that traveling. I don't think I'd ever been pulled over for a bomb inspection before, where they do the explosive chemicals test or whatever it is on your bags. And before, I mean, I had a massive, what you could describe as a terrorist beard when I was living as a guy. Never got pulled over. Go through I think the first time I went anywhere as a woman, that was one of the first things that happened. Oh, we need you to check for your. So I guess it's good that they're not stereotyping people based on that. I don't know if it was because I'm trans that I was standing out more. There was an interesting incident in Dubai, but apparently being transgender is actually illegal in Dubai. That was just a stopover. I'm glad I wasn't there any longer, and I have no intention of ever going back there. If I do any more travel, which I really want to do, I'm not going back there because they seem to want to make an example of me there. I know Gigi Gorgeous, who's another YouTuber, transgender YouTuber, had a bit of trouble over there. And I had nothing quite that bad, but it was just sort of, it felt like I was just going through with metal detectors and all that, and they were sort of looking at me, and why does it still say male? Why does it say male on your passport? And all this kind of stuff. And it was I had to answer a lot of difficult questions and awkward questions, and I really didn't feel comfortable there. So I was very happy to get out of there. Obviously, that never would have happened as a guy, but it wouldn't happen as a cisgender woman either. I mean, although from what I've heard, they're not that much better with cisgender women there. I've heard a few things since I've told people about this. But yeah, that is what it is. Other than that, once when I was in Leeds, I got accused of stealing 2 1-pound DVDs, which I thought was a bit much. It was the cash converters in Leeds, sort of city centre area. Basically, there was sort of this thing. I was looking through their DVDs, and I found a couple that I was interested in, but it was the way the DVDs were. It was a very small area, and a family had come in to look at DVDs, and so they were taking up the whole section. So I thought, well, I'll put these back. I'll come back later. And the guy running the store came running out after me, and was to see whether to tell me to go. He didn't to see if I'd stolen them. He accused me of stealing them and wanted me to go all the way back to the shop to give them back. So I went back to the shop and I showed him where I'd put them, and eventually I had to check the security camera. Again, I don't know. I imagine if there was any kind of prejudice thing going on there. It probably is because I'm trans rather than because I'm presenting as female rather than male. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it may have happened if I was there as a male too. My reactions would have been the same. So it's not really... my reactions would have been the same either way. So, but, other than that, there's been a few things like that where we seem to be viewed with more suspicion. But I'm guessing that is more of a trans thing rather than they view all women like that. Because if they do, then that's I mean, it's wrong that they're looking at trans people like that, but it's even more wrong if they're viewing all women like that for whatever reason they may have to do that. And I don't know if there's some statistic that women are more likely to shoplift, but I doubt that's true. But I've got no idea. I don't have the statistics in front of me. Since living full time, I've had more incidences where those people at the door in shopping centres will come after you and check your bag and all that kind of stuff. And it's not because I carry a bag now and I didn't before, because when I was a guy I still carried a bag. It was just a more masculine looking bag. So there seems to be more attention put on it now. And I remember going through, I'd been busking somewhere and I'd gone through with my guitar into, it was a Kmart, and they wanted to look in the guitar case. And I'm just thinking, for another thing, I'd bought something there, so why would I buy something and then steal something and put it in the guitar case? It didn't. And what did they sell that was vaguely guitar shaped? I was sort of trying to think that, and then I thought, well, we probably could have put clothes in there or something, but it didn't really make sense to me, and I don't think that would have happened when I was a guy, unless it could be something where they've just beefed up the security, but we'll never really know. Another incident was with Sasha. We were recently at Woolworths in Endeavour Hills, and we'd walked through the security scanner, and it hadn't gone off because, needless to say, we hadn't stolen anything. We'd gone through the security scanner, and the woman at the counter where we walked past, when we'd nearly got to the door, called us back to check our bags. And I think I said something, oh, we're not walking all the way back there, and we were practically at the door. So I was going to walk, and she started yelling, security, security! And as luck would have it for her, at least, the security guards happened to be just outside, so they checked our bags, and they were very interested in what I had in my bag. They were asking me questions about things, and, and what's this, and what's this, and what's this, and it's like, well, it's just stuff that you have in a regular handbag. I think, it was an umbrella. I do have my L plates in there from when I'm driving, but I guess that's a slightly unusual thing to have in a handbag, but for the most part it was just the stuff that you would normally find in someone's handbag. And then we went to another shop in the same complex, and they followed us. Luckily that was sort of the end of it, but it felt a bit intrusive, and again, that never happened when I was living as a guy. And maybe people were more intimidated by me when I was a guy. That might be what it was about. Maybe people sort of are more likely to say it, or maybe because I'm trans, they're more likely to try and make an example of me, which I'm pretty sure was what was happening in Dubai. But who knows? And you never know what's going through other people's heads. And aside from those things, really nothing has changed as far as people treat me. Certainly the people that know me don't treat me any differently. And I wouldn't want them to. I'm the same person. The only difference is the gender. And as much as, physically it's different. I mean, I look very different now to how I would have looked. You can't really see much of me because I'm standing too close to the camera. There's a bed here, which is why I can't really go any further that way. So yeah, I mean, I think my image now is a lot less intimidating than before. Obviously, before I had the massive beard and had the hair down and the big sunglasses on all the time, which I sort of talked about a bit in the video I did with Autumn. I'll try and put a link somewhere. No, it won't be on here. I don't know why I'm gesturing. I might put a pic. I can't even do that. This is the really cheap, shitty video editing software I'm using here. So, yeah, so that's basically all I have to say about that particular subject. I'll be back at some point in the future. There's going to be more gymnastics videos. There's going to be more music videos. I'm in the process of working out a video for a song off the current Quagars album. So that'll be hopefully filmed sometime over the summer. Well, Australian summer, obviously it's winter over in America and England and that whole part of the world where I've just been. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's been quite fun. I was quite warm today, so I don't know if you can see sweat dripping down my face or anything. Not really the look I'm going for, but nevertheless, it's unavoidable. So yes, hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll be back at some point in the future.